Welcome back for Keeper of the Lost Cities, Lodestar, Chapter 83. One to go, one left, and the craziness that has been Lodestar. Thank you guys so much for being with me on this journey. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a chapter. And here we go. Chapter 83. Breathe, Keith said, and it took Sophie a second to realize she wasn't. She sucked in a sharp breath, coughing as her chest tightened. Why would the records not be found? She whispered. It could mean a lot of things, Fitz promised. Maybe their names were changed. You weren't supposed to know them, right? So maybe the counselors found out you did and changed them. Or maybe my dad changed them after the Neverseen broke into the registry, since it was hard to tell which files they'd accessed. Or maybe finding out where her family had been hidden was the reason the Neverseen broke into the registry in the first place. I'll hail my dad to see what he knows. Hang on. Fitz ducked into the hall, and Sophie could hear him whispering into his imparter as she clung to Keith, staring blankly at the spy ball. Okay. I was kinda right, he said, stalking back into the room a couple of minutes later. Their names weren't changed, but their registry files were deleted after the break-in, just to be safe. The spy ball picked up registry feeds, so that's why it's saying not found. There's no feed if there's no record matching it. Make sense? Sophie nodded, taking lots of slow, deep breaths, trying to convince herself that the crisis was over. But it didn't feel over, and it wouldn't. Not until... I need to see them, she said. Can you get their address from your dad? I don't care if he gets mad. I need to see them. Okay. One sec, Fitz said, slipping back out into the hall again for a longer conversation. It's going to be okay, Foster, Keith promised, brushing a rebellious tear off her cheek. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out and fix it. My dad can't give me the address, Fitz said as he returned, but he has a leaping crystal that goes there, and he'll take you right now for a quick check if you're ready. I am, Sophie told him, ready to untie her cape. Her tunic, her pants, and her gloves still looked a little elfy, but she wasn't going to waste time changing. I'm coming with you, Fitz said, throwing his cape on the bed next to hers. Ditto, Keith said, doing the same. As am I, Sandor announced as he melted out of the shadows. Now that he and Grizzle were spending more time together, she'd been teaching him how to improve his stealth. I'm in as well, Grizzle said, appearing at Sandor's side. Sophie didn't have the energy to argue. Fine, just try not to look so goblin-y. Goblin-y? Sandor repeated, as Sophie raced downstairs to answer the door. Really, Miss Foster, I'm positive you have no reason to worry, Alden assured her as he pulled her in for a hug. Ready to go? Sophie felt anything but ready, but she grabbed Alden's hand as the rest of them linked into a circle, and they all stepped into the beam of bluish light and zipped away. The house was bigger than Sophie had expected. Small by elven standards, but at least triple the size of her old house in San Diego. Tudor style, so it looked like it belonged in a fairy tale, especially butted up against a thick evergreen forest. They weren't in a neighborhood, so there were no other houses around, but there were 2 cars parked in the driveway and lights on in the bedroom upstairs. See, Alden said, all calm and peaceful. Maybe, Sophie said, but I need to see them. Alden grabbed her shoulders to stop her. That would be very bad. You know how memory wipes work. The washers can't possibly get every memory, and all it takes is the right trigger, and... He snapped his fingers. I didn't say I'm going to let them see me, she argued. Some of the windows had curtains open. I just need to get a quick peek. Make sure they're really in there. I promise they'll never know I was there. Alden sighed. Be careful, and do not be seen. Sophie nodded and sprinted across the grass, with Fitz and Keith keeping pace beside her, and Sandor and Grizzle on alert a few steps back. Everyone almost had a heart attack when a dog started barking from the backyard. A deep, husky howl that had probably been heard from miles away. "Think that'll make them come outside?" Fitz asked, as they ducked under the front bay window and hid among the bushes. "If they do, we'll leap as soon as they hear the front door," Sophie promised, holding up her home crystal to prove it. She hadn't realized how hard she was shaking, though she shouldn't have been surprised. She hadn't been this close to her family in more than a year, closer to 2, actually. And as much as she understood why she couldn't let them see her, she also had to admit she didn't want to, not because she was afraid they'd remember her, because she knew how much it would hurt if they didn't. "Deep breaths, Foster," Keith said, hooking his arm through hers and pulling her closer to the window. "It sounds quiet in here," Fitz whispered. "Think it's safe to peek." Sophie nodded, doing a silent countdown in her head. 3, 2, 1. She popped up on her knees, careful to only raise herself up enough to peek through the spotted glass. "Everything okay?" Fitz asked, when she didn't duck back down. Sophie frowned. "The house is a mess. Way messier than my mom would ever allow it to be." "People change," Keith said, popping up to see for himself. "I guess." But Sophie was starting to learn that dread pulled up inside her. It was because her instincts were a couple of steps ahead. 2 cars in the driveway, a dog barking early in the morning, with no one shushing it. Messy house, too quiet, not found. This wouldn't end well. "I have to get inside," Sophie said, ignoring Sandor's protests as she marched over to the door and tried the handle. It was locked, but her parents still kept the spare key under the smallest flower pot. Before she could change her mind, she unlocked the door and slipped inside. Her heart sank with every new step. Every detail her eyes picked up. Dirty dishes in the sink that had to be at least a week old. Paper strewn all over the tables and floors. "Seems pretty quiet," Keith said behind her. "Too quiet," she whispered. No human thoughts blaring into her brain, though human minds did quiet down while they were sleeping. The stairs creaked as they climbed, but no one startled awake, and the master bedroom was open, empty, bed unmade, lights still on. "Maybe they're on vacation," Fitz said, offering whatever weak hope he could. It was Sandor who finally crushed it, calling from downstairs. "The yard smells like ash, as does the house." Sophie closed her eyes and nodded, letting the tears she'd been fighting slip down her cheeks. The Neverseen used ash to disguise their scent. "They were here," she whispered. "They took them. Why would they take them?" This couldn't just be about controlling her. If that were all it was, they would have let her know the second they had her family. Instead, they'd kept it quiet, letting her discover it all on her own, maybe even hoping she wouldn't. Keith took her by the shoulders, his expression fierce, determined. "I don't know what's going on, but we'll find them, okay? We'll get them back, I promise. But we don't even know where they are." "Where to start?" Sophie reminded him. The sobs were coming fast and furious now, but she didn't fight them back. She was so tired of fighting, tired of losing. "There has to be a clue," Fitz said. "We'll take this whole place apart if we have to. Then we'll find them, and we'll bring them back, and we'll make sure they're happy and safe and nothing bad ever happens to them again, okay?" No, it wasn't okay. It would never be okay. The Neverseen had her family. "Does nightfall mean anything?" A shaky female voice said behind them, eliciting quite a few gasps. That's what they said. They didn't know I was hiding here. One of them had talked about listening for thoughts, so I let my mind go dark and silent, and I heard them say, take them to Nightfall. Nightfall, Keith repeated, as Sophie spun around, following the trail of panicked human thoughts to the voice. There, on the wall, behind them, a door was open just a crack, probably a closet or a bathroom. It's okay to come out, Fitz promised. We're here to help. Several seconds passed before the door swung open, and a young girl stepped slowly out. She was taller than Sophie remembered, thinner, her curly brown hair cut short. But even with all those changes, Sophie would have recognized her little sister anywhere. Her sister's eyebrows pressed together like she was straining extra hard to find out what to say. When their eyes met, she whispered, Sophie? That concludes Chapter 83, the final chapter of Keeper of the Lost Cities, Lodestar. Thank you so much for listening along with me, and I will see you for the next one. Bye!